Hey guys, so today we'll be doing an Element Live lighting masterclass video. So this is for all the beginning lighting operators that come in and do not know what to do. So to start off, we have the console surface. This is what we will be using primarily during each service. A couple things you need to remember before you start anything. If your lights aren't working, for instance, so let's say nothing's on, so there's this little dial right here. Called the Grandmaster. You need to make sure that it is all the way up, otherwise your lighting cue list won't work. And in any case that you're operating in a cue stack where you have to hit this play button, this is basically a Grandmaster, but only for cue lists. This basically takes out everything, the live timing, everything. So that's one thing you need to make sure you know. So you have each worship cue list. We have 3 worship cue lists for 3 songs. So we also have our speaker scene, which is used for the message and the sermon. We also have our video high, video low, and then we have our hazers right here. When you first come in to the lighting booth, on a normal weekend, you'll probably have a scene open already. Something like the speaker scene or a worship cue. Before run-through, there's usually a production meeting, and during run-through, and during a normal service, you want to start over here, and you'll work your way through, and you'll end up using either of these video scenes, and you'll end up over here at the speaker scene. And then when you're done, you will start over for the second service. So the way we start, usually, over here, to clear out anything, we have these buttons right here. And this green one right here, if you hold it down, you can release whatever is being played right now. So obviously, if you do that, then all the lights will turn off. So when you're starting out, you'll go into the walk-in scene, and when you're playing these worship cues, you need to make sure that you always have these transition faders up, otherwise the cues will not play. So you start off with the first walk-in scene. And so during the walk-in, usually you're going to want to keep the hazers on low. To turn on the hazers, all you have to do is press the button and it will highlight whatever it says. For this top one right here, you're going to need to move up a layer, so you're going to need to press this button, and then you're going to need to turn the heat on for a couple of seconds to get it running. So right at about 10 seconds, you can go ahead and click that and turn it off. If you push these in, if anything is holding over it, you can push these 2 in to clear it out. That way, your hazers are both on. So I would usually keep this one on low and this one on medium low until service starts. I would usually run them in medium. So now we're going to run through the worship cue lists. So usually you have these service orders that tell you what the songs, what's happening, when it's happening, and when to cue it. So usually you'll start with your walk-in scene, and then after that you'll go into the video. So if you just hit this button, that's all you have to do. We'll go into the video. And then you'll usually have your comms on, so when the service director, who's the person who will be calling all the cues, says cue worship, you will hit this button again, and then that will bring you into your first worship cue. So if you ever need to go back, you can use this little list over here. So see, if I want to go back to the walk-in scene, then you can do that. Okay, so after you go into video, you start your first worship scene, as you can see right here. And I'm noticing that the haze, which usually is used to create these long beams with the lights, is not working. So what we have to do to troubleshoot that, since we have the hazers on, we have to go up there and confirm that they are on. Okay, so I'm up here on the stage, and I'm trying to troubleshoot the hazers, why they are not working. So as you can see, we have two hazers. We have one right here and one over here. So the way to troubleshoot if they are not working is to go behind, and if you see, there should be a power button right under here. Once that lights up, you know it's turning on, and you will usually hear it turn on too. So with this one over here, as you can see, the LCD screen is not on. What you will have to do is under here and flip this power button, and then it will start its startup process. Once they are done, they will start shooting out haze, and you will know that they are done. So we will go back to the console and await them to be working. So after you've got the haze working, then you can start running your worship cue lists. Push the button, it will go to the next cue. So this is the intro of the song. And then you hit it when it goes to the first verse. And so when it goes to chorus, you hit the button and it goes to chorus. Each of these cues are labeled as when they take place. That's the general idea of how worship happens. You go through the cue lists, and each song looks very different. So once you get through each cue list, and you go to down, there's a transition. So this is the transition cue right here. So the way you make your transition is by queuing up the next song and then releasing the last song by hitting the button. And now you're in a different cue list. And you also want to make sure that you click the next cue list over here. Because if you try to go to a new cue list but try to skip through something in a cue list, but you're not in the right cue list up here, you could end up playing something in a different cue list on a different song, and that would not look right. So make sure you're always in the right cue stack. Okay, so now we just go through each song. This one is titled Worship Blue. And everything programmed up there is symmetrical. And that's why you want to make sure you manage your haze very well. That way everything looks symmetrical. Okay, so now I'll do the transition again. And there, now we're in another song. And so I'll cue up the first cue of the song. So this one is titled Worship Gold. And then I will also go over here and click to Worship Gold. And I will run through each cue. And then this is the offering cue. Once you get out of worship, you're going to need to hit that pretty quickly. I would hit it as soon as the speaker is just slightly beside the middle where he's speaking. And then after that, you have your video scene. And that keeps the house lights up for the offering. That way when the buckets are being collected, all the ushers and people can see. After the video's done and all the buckets are collected, you're also going to want to release your haze. So you press the green button up there, and you click each one of them, and that releases it. You're generally going to want to do that around the start of offering. Okay, so next we're going to talk about the spotlights and when to push the spots or release them. So right here, you have your spotlight faders, right? And so each one is labeled. As you can see, you have spot mid, and then you have stage left, stage right, and then you have your forefront spot, which is all of the vocalist spots. And then you have another fader called spot front, which is every single spotlight in the front. So the time when to push those up is usually when you're looking up at the stage or you're looking at your monitor at the camera shot and they appear too dark. You're going to want to push them somewhere around 50 to 65 in case they're too dark. So right here, as obviously if you have all your spots, there are also different pages where you can put different spotlights. So for instance, we have a keyboard player spot, so as you can see. There's the keyboard player spot. And then we also have a drum spot, and it's those two spotlights right there. And that's the spotlights. Okay, so next we're gonna talk about how to troubleshoot a miscue. So what a miscue is if you hit your play button but you didn't mean to, all you have to do is slide the fader down and it will pause the cue. As soon as you bring it back up, it will resume the cue. And that's how you troubleshoot. Okay, so coming out of Element News, you have the message opener. And that's usually when the person on the video says, "Thanks so much for being here. We hope you enjoy the service." It goes into our message opener, right? And then what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to hit video low, and you're going to want to release this by hitting that. And so what that does is it brings the house lights down. And then after that, when the service director says cue pastor, you're going to want to hit this again, which will cue a speaker scene, and then you're going to want to hit this, and then you're going to want to hit that. And that will slowly but surely bring up the house lights. And in any case that your lighting software goes down, we have a failsafe system up here. It's our wall plate, so it has multiple things. So this first one up at top brings the house lights up to full. So if I hit it, house lights up. And the way to release it is just to press it again. And then the second one over here brings up the spotlights. So that's how you troubleshoot in case your lighting software goes down. Okay, so the speaker scene, you mainly stay in this scene. You're always going to want to make sure that you go to the next thing, alright, in case you need to skip through. Usually during the sermon, you stay in this scene. And then once we go to invitation, you hit it and it slowly brings the house lights down. And then after the invitation is over and everybody says amen and starts clapping, you hit it again and it brings the house lights up. And then when everybody's dismissed and the speaker walks off the platform, you hit it again and it blacks out the stage spotlights. And that's a full service. So usually around the time when everybody's cleared out and all the people praying up there at the front are done, you're going to want to transition back into the walk-in queue list. So the way you do that is you click walk-in, right? And then you're going to want to highlight this green button and release the speaker scene. And then you'll be back in your walk-in scene. And that's how you reset for service. Okay, so in the cases of a video service, which is usually every 6:30 service or the second service on Saturday, there's a special way that we want to do this because it's a video, so obviously you don't want spotlights shining on the screen. So the way you're going to do this is we have a special scene set up. So when you go from the video scene in this worship queue list, you're going to want to hit the page up button, and then you're going to want to click this button right here that says video service. And so basically what it does is you hit it and you release that. Basically all it does is bring the house lights down and black out the stage. So that's how you run a video service. So this has, remember I always do this, this also has a speaker scene. And then of course there's a walkout. That's the normal for a video service. After that, of course, you can go over here and transition back. Transition back into your walk-in. And so that's how you do a video service.